it's Adriana, and this is my review of Man of Steel. Man of Steel is the latest reincarnation of Superman, starring Henry Cavill and directed by Zack Snyder, who did 300 and Watchmen. It's on a very large scale, it's got a lot of action, a lot of effects. I don't know, I find myself not liking it that much because I felt like where it excelled at all of the big grand stuff, it kind of lacked in the basic storytelling of the Superman story. I didn't hate the movie. I liked it. There were some aspects about it that I really liked, but I'm a fan of Superman, and I've watched different versions of the story. I used to watch Smallville. I used to watch like Lois and Clark. And I'm not really big on the original Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I was a fan of Superman Returns back when it came out, but I can't really speak to that because it's been a really long time since I've seen it. This adaptation, it's good, but it alters some things, at least in my viewpoint. I'm not like a super expert. I didn't read the comics or anything like that. His story with Lois Lane was a bit different from what I know of it, and this is like a really origins of Superman story, so it does a really good job at like telling us about Krypton, the planet, and his parents, and why they sent him to Earth, and all that kind of stuff, and like who he is, like his background. It gives a good background on the character, but the actual Superman in the present, the actual Clark Kent in the present, I feel like his character is barely developed at all. It's all told through flashbacks, but what we see of like the Clark Kent Superman is very scarce. You just see, I feel like there's not much of a character to him, and I don't blame Henry Cavill, the actor, because I just feel like he didn't have much to work with. Like, there weren't that many scenes of him that really gave him a chance to like have a personality, other than like the kind of quiet, understated Superman, which is not really how I know Superman to be. So I don't know, I just didn't think his character was very well developed. Then we have Lois Lane, who's played by Amy Adams, which is weird because Lois Lane to me has black hair and Amy Adams is a redhead, but besides that, she's like significantly older than the actor who plays Superman, so she does a good job. She's good in the movie, but like the character of Lois Lane is just so different than what I know of her. I mean, at least her relationship with Superman and with Clark Kent is very different in this movie because she knows instantly that he's Superman, and there's never that whole thing where she can't tell the difference between Clark Kent and Superman. That kind of plotline, which is kind of silly, but that just famous plotline is kind of taken out. Also, the love story of Clark and Lois is kind of contrived and kind of forced, and it doesn't happen very naturally, and I feel like they barely interact in the movie. Michael Shannon does well as the villain, General Zod, who I didn't know about this story of General Zod at all. I'm like, you know, don't know that much. I know about like Lex Luthor, but that whole plot line, like, that villain was like a good villain, and it was a good story for the film. Just, I feel like, I don't know, the film was just so plot-driven on that aspect, and you got a lot of the General Zod story and a lot of the planet Krypton story, and not so much the actual story of Superman living on Earth, which I kind of more anticipated. You get a little bit of it, it's in flashbacks, and Diane Lane and Kevin Costner do a really great job at playing his parents, and the child actors who play Clark do a really good job too. Like, I really liked those scenes, it just wasn't really enough of it, and it was just all just like flashbacks, and you don't really see much of the character of Superman, who he becomes, other than, you know, save the world kind of thing, which is implied, but not really who he is as a person, I felt. And some of the dialogue was really cheesy and lame, and sometimes it just felt like they were trying so hard to be so serious about things that it came off a little bit laughable. The visuals are really good. There's tons of action sequences. I feel like more than half the movie is the big fight, the big, like, climax of the movie takes place over so long of the film, but I felt like it overpowered the rest of the whole movie and took away from the story. I don't know, I just felt a little bit let down by the film. I guess I had really high expectations. I knew it was going to be this big kind of epic sort of film, but I kind of thought that there'd be more story and character, especially because it's such a classic story and such a classic character. I just felt like a lot of that was just brushed over. And the score is really great. Hans Zimmer, obviously, I don't know. I feel like the film was too long, and for the length that it didn't have, like, enough story or character development or heart, or really, I didn't really feel anything for anyone. I didn't really like Lois Lane that much as a character. She was just kind of unlikable, and I obviously like Superman, and you're always gonna sympathize with Superman and Clark Kent, but I still felt like he wasn't developed enough. I'm sure everyone will still go watch the film, but I just didn't think it really lived up to the hype that's around it, or I just feel like they could have done so much more with it, or so much better with it, and I don't, like, the acting is all around decent, but I just felt like no one was given much to work with, and I really blame the screenplay for that. So I'm giving the film a 6 out of 10, and I wanted to give it a little bit higher because it's still entertaining and it's still visually stunning, but it also was kind of boring at points, and it lacked way too much on everything else. And when you compare it to, like, Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, or Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi films, or Iron Man, those are all really great superhero films that really build a strong character for the superhero. And you'd think that, like, Superman would have a strong character, but I just felt like there was so much lacking in his character and his story. Anyhow, that's my review of Man of Steel. If you agree or disagree, please comment below. And thank you so much for watching my review. If you like what you see, please subscribe. Thanks so much.